Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for giving it your Monday lunchtime to come and join us. We are talking today about content without burnout, a big area for all the charities that we work with, and burnout is a particularly prevalent thing, unfortunately, within marketing. But before we get into it, I want to introduce myself and the agency. So my name's Kerry Watkins. I'm the founder and managing director of Social for Good. If you're not aware of us, we're a social media specialist agency. We're based down in Brighton. Well, most of us are. I think 7 of us are, and 3 of the team work remotely. But we're a team of strategists, trainers, social media managers, data analysts, paid specialists, influencer campaign managers, graphic designers, you name it. If it's something that involves social media, we have people that know what they're doing and we can help you with it. So we work with purpose-driven brands. What that means to us is organizations that are doing good in the world, either for people or planet. So that means most of our clients, the vast majority of our clients, are charities or NGOs, but we also work with other non-profits within education or healthcare, and we do have some businesses that we work with too who are B Corp certificated, which we recently got ourselves a couple of weeks ago. As an agency, we're on a mission to do 2 things generally. One is to help organisations that are doing good in the world maximise their impact through strategic and ethical social media. And the second part is trying to make the social media landscape a good place to be, or a better place to be, that makes a positive impact on people's lives. That second part of our mission might feel impossible, especially over the last year or so with what we've seen happening on X and so on, but that's what we focus on doing. We still believe that social can be used for good, despite some of the things that happen in the social landscape. And really grateful to have so many brilliant organisations join us today. We run these webinars at the end of every month, normally on the last Monday of each month, unless it's a bank holiday. And what we do in these webinars is we aim to share our learnings, our insights from working with hundreds of charities and purpose-driven teams. Over the past 15 years, I've been doing this, and you can imagine social's changed a huge amount in that time. So our aim is that you leave this session with ideas you can actually use, that you get a lot of value from it. Before I carry on, I will just hand over to my colleague Nina, who's kindly joined me today, fresh from being on holiday last week, to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure to join this webinar. I always love having this on Monday. It just sets me up for the week. But yeah, my name is Nina and I head the strategy team at Social for Good. This means that I usually bring a lot of different thought leaders from different charities and organizations we work with together in one room to try and figure out why are we on social media, what are we trying to achieve, who are we talking to, and what kind of content would excite them. And my role today is to answer any questions that you guys have in the chat. So please, throughout the webinar, if you feel like I'd love to know more about this, please drop it in the chat and I'll be answering questions or collecting them for Kerry to answer at the end as well. So that's all. Over to you, Kerry, now.
Well, thanks, Nina. I have so many things on my screen. I'm going to have to minimize my Zoom gallery, but I know that Nina's going to look after you. Okay, so what's included in the next 30 to 40 minutes or so? This is what we're going to dig into. Why content can feel overwhelming. I think this was the most registrations we've had for any of our webinars, so I'm feeling that content without burnout is a particularly important topic to you. We're going to help with content planning with the aims of clarity and ease. We always want to make people's lives simpler and easier in terms of social. We're going to look at how to handle multiple stakeholder requests without losing your mind. We're going to look at ways to make your content go further, but without doing more work. And later on, or about 2/3 of the way through, we're going to do a little quiz to check your content confidence. Don't worry, it's not a quiz on what I'm going through. It's not that kind of webinar. It's a mini version of our Social for Good impact wheel, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's a kind of survey we've put together looking at all the different areas of social. And we've done a mini version of that, just focusing on content for today. But Nina will share that later in the chat and we'll have a little discussion about it. What that will do is just kind of help personalize your takeaways from this webinar. And throughout this lunchtime session, you're going to learn some of our favorite tools that we use in the Social for Good Accelerator. This is our training program that we designed just over a year ago, specifically for charities, which I will tell you a little bit about later. This is not a hard sell, the accelerator, I promise, but there's so much good stuff in it, and we've had such good feedback on the charities that have done the course that we really want to start sharing more of that with more charities so that you can all make a bigger impact on social. So our aim with this webinar is helping you, or kind of giving you value so that it actually makes a difference in your work. I'll be kind of sharing the best bits from a much bigger framework of tools that we use when we work with charity marketing and comms teams. But everything that I do share with you today, it's grounded in work that we've done with hundreds of charities. We know it's tried and tested, it's doable, whether you're a large marketing department or a team of one. But before I start sharing this, I would love to do a quick poll just to get a sense of where you're at, which Nina will launch in a second. So we really want to understand your challenges when it comes to social media. Do you struggle with time? Do you struggle with content ideas? You can tick as many as are relevant. It could be about managing requests and expectations from other people in the organisation, not having a clear plan or strategy, confidence in knowing what good looks like, performance, like how do you know what's working or not? Perhaps it's the tools to help you manage content, or you're not really confident in terms of repurposing. So have a look at that and let us know what your challenges are. And of course, if it's something else, do let us know in the chat. All feedback helps us really understand what the challenges that our charity clients have so that we can refine our content, our services to help solve them. I could easily have ticked everything in the poll. Oh dear. I think that's probably true of a lot of people, Sonia.
We have 26 of us, 26 out of 27 that have responded, so nearly everyone.
But let's have a look at the results then. Okay, so what were the biggest culprits? I'm not really surprised to see that time is up there, 65% of you. This absolutely feels true for all of the charities that we work with. There's so much involved in social, and I'm not sure everybody really appreciates how much time goes into it. Also, scoring high is performance. I guess part of that is not having time to analyse it and understand what's working well, because it feels like sometimes like a kind of conveyor belt, doesn't it, of posting. So yeah, I understand that. And repurposing, I'm kind of pleased that a lot of you have put that, because I will share a framework to help with repurposing today. So I hope that we can solve that problem. I can't give anybody more time, but hopefully some of these frameworks just help you get more, I think, content from the time that you have. So I do hope I can address that a little bit. And half of you said strategy and posting reactively, not working to a clear plan. And time is partly the issue with that, but that has been the case, I think, for almost every charity we've worked with over the past few years, which is why one of our key services is social media strategy, because without that, it can feel right unrewarding. It can feel very overwhelming, not knowing why you're doing what you're doing and having that plan to work to. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Really interesting. How can I get rid of the poll from my screen? Bear with me a sec. There we go. Okay, so, why does content feel so hard? As you've just shared in the poll, you're juggling content with a million other things. We know that you get last-minute requests, campaign changes, there might be unexpected comments that you need to deal with. You're trying to plan ahead, but nobody gives you the time to plan ahead. And it can easily be a route to burnout. We totally get what goes into your job when you're looking after social. But then even if you do start getting ahead and you think, okay, I've got a plan, someone pops in the office or into your teams with, can we just get something up for this event across all our socials today, please? And I know it can feel like, I don't know, faceplant on the desk. And it can be really hard to push back and explain that, for example, a post for an event is not really going to work today because you did one yesterday, or you've got other content that you need to get out and the calendar's really full. Maybe you can squeeze it in next week, but not everybody gets it. I think a lot of our clients struggle with that when partnerships or HR or fundraising, they all want you to post content for them without really understanding the bigger picture, and they just see social as somewhere to put things. So it makes it even harder in that challenge to get away from being reactive and keeping your calendar full and balanced and having that time to think creatively. So we get it. And then what doesn't help is remembering the rest of the world has no attention span, your audience included. We've got 2 to 8 seconds, depending on the channel and content, to make an impact on social. And, you know, you'll all have heard that that first line of your caption needs to hook your reader straight away. So it's not ideal when somebody shares with you a 5-minute video with a long story to accompany it and expect it to go out on social. And then when you look at the stat that 1 in 3 social media users would rather see no brand content at all, it could feel like you're fighting a losing battle, but you're not alone. And if you feel overwhelmed like that, I can assure you we all feel the same way. What we're going to cover next is some ways to take some of that pressure off and start winning that battle. So I want to introduce to you first one really simple but useful framework that we call the content trifecta. It sounds very grand. It's really simple but really effective. It's something we developed initially to use in our strategy workshops, and we use it in our training programs now. It's just a really great way to visualize the 3 key needs that great content needs to have. If it meets those 3 needs, it's winning. So the first of those 3 are your audience's needs. Content has to connect on a human level and either interest your audience, it needs to resonate or be relatable, answer their questions, understand their problems, alleviate their fears, some way helping to kind of build and nurture that connection, that relationship with them. So it has to add value to them in some way. If we don't understand a charity's target audience, it's impossible to put together an effective content strategy. This is one of the most fundamental things that needs to happen. And then we need to think, the second need is about the organisational goals. So the content that you're sharing needs to meet the needs of your charity. So what that means is the content you're creating and sharing is strategic on some level, and it's working towards at least one of your social media objectives. That's why it's hard sometimes to have an effective content strategy if you haven't got the overall strategy with your objectives. So as well as adding value to your audience, it's adding value to your charity, and it gives you a real purpose for your social. And then finally, it's about the platform fit. So the content needs to be optimized for the channel that you're posting it on. So it's about making sure it's in the most engaging format it can be in, depending on the messaging, that the tone, the format, the length of the caption is all optimized for the platform that the content will be on, and that it'll appeal to the target audience on that platform. It feels native. We all know there are, subtle differences between how people consume content on different social channels, and thinking about when you're posting it too. So this tool, whilst simple, it's a great tool to help you create great content by just checking it hits those 3 needs. But more than that, it can help you explain your decisions to other people as well. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of push back with purpose. So if somebody does ask, hey, can we post about this? You can kind of run it through this lens. Does it serve your audience? Does it align with your goals? And is it right for the platform? And if it only ticks one of those boxes, it might not be the right post, which doesn't mean that you kind of have to say, no, we're not doing it. It might just need adapting or reframing in some way. Another framework that I wanted to share with you today, and this is fundamental within the Accelerator and all of our strategy projects, it's looking at objectives for your charity across 5 categories. So we've got awareness and interest, engagement, meaningful action, advocacy, and reputation. So we set objectives in each of those stages of the audience journey, as well as thinking about reputational goals. But when it comes to content, it's important to figure out what you want each post to do. How is it helping with those specific objectives? Without doing that, content can start to feel really frustrating, burnout can creep in, you're posting and posting without really a sense of what it's for and what it's doing for your organisation. So this funnel is not a funnel, it's a kind of funnel on its side in a way. I don't like the term funnel, but it's a useful way to explain this. I think it's not a simple funnel when it comes to social media. There are so many different touch points. It's more of a kind of web. But for the purposes of this kind of funnel on its side, thinking early stage, are you trying to raise awareness? Are you trying to build engagement? Do you want people to take some kind of action, like signing up for something, donating? Do you want to create advocacy so that people are supporting you and spreading the word for you? And whilst reputation is a bit of an outlier in the funnel, it's something that's important to a lot of charities we work with, managing to a degree the perception of that your audience have of your organisation. So you don't need content in all 5 of these areas every week, but what this framework allows you to do is just to give your content a bit of direction, again, help manage stakeholders. So if there's a request for something, you can say, all right, this post hits our advocacy goal. We can see how it fits here and how we put it together. So I'm just going to talk through some examples of how thinking about content in terms of these categories can help you focus. So if you want to reach new audiences, we know that Reels and TikToks are great at reaching non-followers. So that's how that format will work really well there. If you have a goal of raising awareness of your charity, you're not a household name, or you need to increase brand awareness with new people, we know through our work with charities that people-first storytelling really works. It helps to show the impact of your work and really get the human element across. That really engages people whether they know who you are or not. To get more engagement, we advise maximising the personality in your copywriting on social, keeping it conversational. Write how you talk to make people want to read more. It makes your captions very compelling. And if, for example, you want more saves on your content, we say ask for it. So tell people what you want them to do and you will get more of it. If you want people to take some kind of action, so it could be download something, buy something, donate, volunteer, the biggest tip we can give is make it clear what's in it for them. Very few people will do what you want them to do just because you ask them to do it. So you need to make them want to do it for themselves. So thinking about the benefit to them, what will they learn or gain, experience or feel if they take that action? So it's about putting yourself in their shoes to get more of those actions. And if one of your goals is others sharing your content, one tactic to focus on is about celebration. People on social love to share in other people's success. So invite your audience into your stories, your messaging, your celebrations. And finally, a lot of the charities we work with struggle to show the impact of their work. And sometimes these are the most powerful stories. So one tactic for content to achieve this is to create an infographic using some of the data or insights that you have in your organisation, particularly works well as a carousel or a video. So planning content in terms of thinking about your strategic goals can just also be really useful. But I want to take it a step further. So let's take something that I would imagine most of you probably have. It's what we call blockbuster content. So a long form blog, or an impact report. Now, what some charities tend to do is to post this impact report once with a link to drive some social traffic to your site, which is great. However, you can use this one piece of blockbuster content, called blockbuster just because, you know, it's meaty, and use it to build a lot more content that covers all 5 of those strategic goals. For example, let's say to raise awareness and interest, you could pull out a big stat from that impact report. You could animate it, make it into a short form video. You could use a few highlights from the report to create a carousel for maximising engagement, always making sure the second frame of your carousel, if it's on Insta, makes sense with the rest of the slides, because people will often see it twice. You could include a direct ask and share elements of the report or a link to the report with what your support makes possible and encourage them to take action. You could turn a quote from the report into a shareable story or a testimonial for more advocacy. And you could share data-led insights in a post for the CEO, perhaps, to share on LinkedIn that will show your expertise, your impact and credibility. So this framework is one idea, 5 uses, and then you've just hit every part of that funnel, as much as I hate the word, I'm saying it way too often, without actually creating anything new. It's also one of the best tools, I think, for mapping content requests to actual strategy. So kind of piggybacking on what I said earlier, if a colleague says, we need to post about this event, you can ask, okay, is this about raising awareness? Are we trying to get more sign-ups? Are we celebrating the success of a previous event to show the benefits for attending this one? Whatever it is, it's by placing it in this funnel, you can make sure your content mix isn't lopsided, and then you can show your colleagues where their request fits in. If we share everything with an ask, it can definitely feel lopsided, and we need to balance it out. So hopefully this can help you either say yes, no, or yes, but not this week, or to find the right angle to make sure it's not just a post that goes out and goes down the feed, but it's strategic. So we've looked at content trifecta framework, making sure content adds value to your audience, your organization, and it's optimized for the channel it's being posted on. And we've also looked at how you can plan content and map content requests around those strategic goals. So what I want to do now, pause for 2 minutes, 1, so I can drink some water, and 2, so that you can reflect on where your content strategy is at right now. So Nina's going to share a short quiz. As I said earlier, it's a mini version, just looking at content, mini version of our impact wheel, which you can find on our website if you're interested to do the whole thing. It's just focused on content, and hopefully it will give you a kind of check-in about how you're feeling about your content strategy at the moment, and then based on your answers you get some personalised insight emailed to you. And if anything in the quiz, any of the questions sparks a question for us, please do put it in the chat, or feel free to share any questions that hit a nerve, perhaps give you an aha moment. I don't expect everyone to share their score unless you want to. But perhaps just, share something with your thoughts. So I'll stop talking for a moment and let you focus on that. Sorry, I just realised I was muted, and I was saying thank you, Sonia, for sharing that. That was a helpful quiz. Anything that particularly stood out for people? Anything that you want to focus on more, or realised it was a bit of a gap, perhaps? Or perhaps something you're doing really well? Please do share a few thoughts in the chat. Oh, can't wait to share scores internally. Love it. Thanks, Cedric. It's hard to, there's so many questions that we could ask in this. And when I was designing the impact wheel, was it just over a year ago, I think, it was, it would have become impossible, and like hundreds of questions covering social. But we spent a lot of time refining those questions to the ones that will actually help you make more impact. So I appreciate your comment, Cedric, with good questions. So Sonia, struggle with the idea of having evergreen content and stuff for repurposing without being really repetitive and boring. Now, I think that's a really good insight. Love to chat to you about that more, Sonia. Feel free to book a 15-minute chat if you want. I could talk about evergreen and repurposing for at least 15 minutes, so happy to help. Anyone else? I guess if we find something boring ourselves, the chances are everyone else will find it boring as well. Yeah. Okay, please do carry on popping your thoughts in the chat. I want to talk through the last framework for today, and then we can have a chat at the end and look at any questions. So, our last framework, final one, which I love, is to never run out of content ideas again. And we also tap into the idea of repurposing here, Sonia, so hopefully this will help. So this framework we call 360-degree content. So I want you to imagine you're sitting in a swivel chair in the middle of your organization virtually, and you can spin around to see everything that's going on. So this is about not missing any opportunities for content, because sometimes when you're just sat in front of a laptop, I always thought of it as you're like a racehorse with blinkers on. All we see in front of us are the people we support, the services we offer, etc. And that can make your content output a little bit unbalanced, in my opinion. And years ago, when I started working with a real variety of charities, and as I was talking to them in the workshops and getting to know more about them, I could see that there were these incredible stories, really interesting stuff, but none of it was being shared on social. So this framework is about helping you find those opportunities for storytelling and content everywhere you look. It helps to unblock that blank content calendar moment when you're just sat there going, right, I need to put stuff out. If that's a problem for you, this framework is good. Now, because of limited time today, I couldn't put the full framework in here because I just wouldn't have time to talk through it. So this is just a bit of a snapshot with some ideas, but you'll get the picture. First of all, let's look behind the scenes. So this is about creating content that shows the people in your organization, tapping into the culture, real life events that you're doing, and you'll find loads of great stories there. I think this works particularly well on social because it helps to humanize you as an organization, and you're not just talking about kind of beneficiaries or stakeholders in the third person. People love to get to know real people on social. So that behind the scenes content could be a real quick win. Secondly, your charity. So think about content and stories that talk about why you do what you do, what it is that you actually do, what's the impact that you have as a result of the work that you do, what kind of stories can come out of that. As I said earlier, I think a lot of charities struggle to share really engaging content about their impact. I don't know if it's a kind of a British thing that we don't like to blow our own trumpet. And sometimes that's why it's helpful to have the perspective of an agency to kind of go, look at all this brilliant stuff. You need to share more of this. Next, thinking about your audience. So as I said right at the beginning, this is fundamental to any strategy. Really understanding your audience in terms of their needs, their pain points, so their challenges, problems, obstacles, and their motivations. And if you put yourself in your audience's shoes and think, what do they want to hear from us? What do they need? What are those frequently asked questions or things that we can perhaps then create some evergreen content by getting ahead of those? And you can use anecdotal evidence. It might be worth having a workshop or a meeting with some of your colleagues who interact with different stakeholders every day so that you continue to learn more about them and create content that fits their needs. And then finally, it's the bigger picture. So it's looking at the wider world. What's going on in terms of debates or trends in your sector? What's happening in current affairs that impacts the work that you do? What's your opinion on that? Can you have a public opinion on that? Sometimes that can be really challenging for charities, but sometimes senior leaders within the organisation can use their personal LinkedIn to have some kind of impactful conversations on social. And national awareness days are great because this is a way to bring people together outside of your core audience on social, outside of your followers. If you want, we've got a free awareness day calendar on our website that you can download. I know we're halfway through the year, but we'll be working on next year soon. That can help to fill your calendar with some useful content. So the 360 framework is a great tool for ideation. And I think it also helps you when there might be gaps in your content mix. So if you think you've been posting mostly about your services or your programs, or it's a bit kind of top heavy in that way, perhaps then it's time to show more about your people. Or if you feel like you've just been a bit generic and there's too many awareness days, then maybe it's time for a case study, like really getting into the people that you work with. So I think this is one of my favourites because it helps to spark variety. But also if you are repurposing one blockbuster piece of content, this can be useful to look through as well, to see those different angles from one piece of content. We use this in the accelerator, in content workshops. We've always had great feedback about it. So I really hope it's something you can take away and use to brainstorm with your team or just on your own, because sometimes the hardest part is just knowing what to post next, and this helps that. So that's all three frameworks from me. Before we go to questions, I just want to briefly explain what this accelerator is that I've been mentioning, because everything you've seen today, the content goals framework, 360, it all comes from this program. It's an 8-week course that we designed especially for charity marketing and comms teams, mainly helping them go from reactive to strategic and without burning out and having a clear plan. So it's super practical. There's loads of templates, guidance, community support. And as I said, it's based on what we've learned from working with hundreds of organisations. But it was also built by charities as well through not just conversations, but surveys with hundreds of charities. So it really addresses some of the challenges that are unique to your sector. There are 12 modules at present. We've got ideas for more, from strategy to content planning, to accessibility, to paid advertising, lots more. But it's one thing I did hear from people, it's like, oh, it sounds like a lot, but actually this isn't about doing more work, it's about doing the work that matters to make the most impact, and to help you feel calm and confident. And you get free consultancy from our lovely team for a year. So if it does sound like something that you're interested in, Nina's got a link to my calendar, and I love having 15-minute chats, whether you just want to chat about something that we've covered today, or if you want to learn more about the accelerator and see if it's the right fit for you. No pressure at all. I love talking social, and would love to have some calls. Or if you just want to read a bit more about it in your own time, there's a webpage and a couple of new case studies on our website. But that's it from me. Over to you now. I would love to, or Nina and I can answer any questions that you have, or if you have any insights to share from your own quiz results or your own experience of content, I would love to hear them. me stop sharing. Oh, and I can see faces again now. How lovely. And the chat.
We had a couple of questions in the chat that I haven't addressed yet. So if you want, I can share them with you.
Yeah.
So the first one was from Chloe Carpenter, and Chloe said, I work fully remotely, which makes it quite difficult to see where things are happening around the organization. Also, we have quite a convoluted sign-off process for posts, so it does mean we're fairly slow with things. And Elizabeth said something similar in the way where, in order for you to create great content, you need to be up to date with trends and news. And Elizabeth struggles with that. There's too much happening that you simply cannot keep up. So, what do you think about that, Kiri?
Oh, gosh. Okay. First of all, working remotely and keeping in touch with what's going on with the charity. I'll address that one first. I understand that because it can be similar for an agency. So we manage social for a lot of our charity clients, and you can't do that if you don't know what's going on in the organisation. So we have regular meetings, and we also use Slack channels. I don't know if you're familiar with Slacks, like Teams or WhatsApp, but just for work. And that helps us to stay more in touch with them. When we have advised our clients, so if you have, teams that are working remotely, I would say it's not just people sending you information. If people send you emails about stuff that's going on, you're not really immersed in it, and it can be really hard to truly know what's going on. So you really need to have that face-to-face time in a regular Zoom call, I think, with key people in the organisation so that marketing and comms people are up to speed. And that can be really hard to convince people that that's a good use of their time. This is where a good strategy comes in, because if you have a good social strategy that outlines why you're using social, what it's actually going to achieve for you with some KPIs, then people, I think, can then see the value in doing it and improving kind of that internal process. But it's something, unfortunately, sorry, I can't remember who asked that, but something that relies on other people to kind of step up. But you could perhaps do some work on the strategy to show why it's important. In terms of convoluted sign-off, again, we've heard that quite a lot from people we work with. The best advice I could give for that question is if there are certain things that come up again and again, you can prepare a kind of a template, if you like, for if the content's about this or using certain messaging. If you get the same feedback from people, then perhaps you can get ahead of it, and then you can get to a point where certain things are signed off automatically, rather than needing to go through that process. One other idea might be to create a custom GPT using AI, where the people that are signing it off, if they can share, it's something that we're doing at the moment for somebody, if they can share what things they're looking for in that content, what does get signed off, what doesn't get signed off, what's the feedback, you could create an AI bot that kind of does that for you. And then you can perhaps use that as a first stepping stone, so that when it goes for that sign off, it's much quicker, if that makes sense. But again, if you want me to explain that in a bit more detail, please book a 15-minute chat with me. I'll happily go into it a bit more. And then the third point, staying up to date with trends and news. God, that's a constant challenge for all of us working in social. So I get that. There are perhaps, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but perhaps there are a few kind of sources and regular emails. I know that our team are signed up to a few of them where they just pop into your inbox and you get, I think the Social Shepherd is one good one. We're going to start doing a monthly one where we're going to just kind of collate all the key updates that you need to know about what's going on. Nina, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just about to say that maybe in the follow-up email we'll send, I can share 4 or 5 of my favorite newsletters that help me to be up to date with any trend updates. So we can share that with you in the follow-up email.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And I know it's 1:45, but maybe we have time for one more question before we wrap up. And that was from Katie. And the question was, do you think there's a danger about awareness days, that there's so many people posting about it, so it could get lost? I'm on the fence about this.
I think, yeah, there's a fine line with getting awareness day content right. I think when people are jumping on awareness days for the sake of it and it's not really strategic, I don't think there's a lot of value in that. If it's really relevant to you, or there is a really credible link to the work that you do with that awareness day, I think it's worth creating content about that and sharing it, because it could just help with more exposure. And even if you're not getting huge engagement rates with it, if you're getting that visibility, I think it just helps people perhaps understand who you are and what you do. But it's one of those awful answers with like, it depends. It depends what you're doing, which I hate myself for saying that. Nina, have you got any other advice for that question with awareness days?
Nope, I think you've covered it. Sounds good to me.
Okay, but yeah, if it feels a little bit, if you feel like you're, what's the word? I don't know, if you're cringing ever so slightly when you're creating some awareness day content because like this doesn't really fit what we do, I would say scrap it. But when it feels good inside, that's when you know it's content that's worth doing. And maybe that's content that, if you have any paid budget, if you're a slightly larger charity, might be worth doing that just to get in front of some non-followers with it to help you with your goals. Cedric, you nailed it. If your heart sings, then it's right. We all know what feels right inside with our content. Oh, thank you so much, everybody, for turning up today. I love talking about social content. I really hope that some of what I've shared you can take back to your charities, and it's either inspired or kind of help you in some way. And yeah, if you want to talk more about social, please do click that link. And have a lovely Monday afternoon and rest of your week. We'll send out the recording and the resources later on today. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.